suited for their profiteering and monitoring purposes. And this is at least an acknowledgement that there is no platform without the audience.
Right.
And we're going to reward the audience for being the audience.
Right.
It's at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And again, it's not like a panacea or, the ultimate corrective against these huge big tech, behemoths that essentially dominate and dictate what the public square is and which opinions are, kosher enough to be communicated. And that is, it is an egregious rewrite of what communication really is all about. Essentially, like, it goes beyond free speech. It's dictating that the parameters and the delimitations of communication itself have to be approved of,
right,
beforehand.
Right. But it's also a huge vote against. You've seen different corporate efforts to try and get in on the Bitcoin thing. Bitcoin had a legitimate innovation, did they not? Double spending problem solved with decentralized computing. This, like many other projects, it's cryptocurrency plus something else. Mm-hmm. And one of the big problems with mass adoption with a cryptocurrency is all the financial regulations. But that's exactly why it was invented, right? Is to sort of get around that. It was like, okay, we can't go storm the bankers. Mm-hmm. They've got all the weapons. They got all the military, we can't go take all the gold and silver reserves and, restart the system with a standard. And, this is the modern day sort of, we're saying no to the money changers. Mm-hmm. I would say that's at least the spirit of the community, whether it's co-opted or, there's lots of corruption that circulates within the cryptosphere. Mm-hmm. But at the core, to me, socially, it's like, we don't need government's permission to determine what we're going to accept as remuneration for a thing. Mm-hmm. And, some people look at Bitcoin and they're like, oh, well, it's arbitrary. And it's like, but you said the same thing about gold, and is the paper dollar not? Right.
It's at least, that means it's in the very least as good as
the
world reserve.
But that's
currency.
All you can say. That's all you can say. But they say, oh, well, no, the dollar's backed by the promise. And I'm like, what promise is being fulfilled by the government?
The promise of tyrannical force being coercively applied if you didn't comply, right? I mean, that's literally the only...
That's the essence of fiat.
Right. That's the only can you even call that a promise? It's a threat.
Right.
It's not a promise. It's just a threat. It's just, we are the biggest mafia around. You have to accept our racket or else. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not fundamentally different than that. And at least with the notion of distributed ledger technology, there is a way to track transactions without a central overseeing arbiter of which transactions are allowed and which aren't. Because at the end of the day, that's what they ultimately want with the whole cashless society and the Fed dollar and the digital dollar and all that stuff, is they want to know every single last thing that you possibly could want to purchase, so that they know your entire holdings of everything. Meanwhile, they get to operate above and beyond any kind of scrutiny. Because are they going to have private ledgers? Are they going to be using something even more sophisticated than, say, Monero to hide their money on separated chains that you have no ability to even, track at all? So I think that they like the idea of privacy coins.
These are people who
for
own
themselves.
the infrastructure that they allow us to have.
Right.
Yeah. So their currency with whatever transdimensional entities that they're dealing with, I mean, who knows what they're actually using for currency at that level, because we've talked about it before. These are people who don't think about things in terms of dollars or pounds or anything. They think in terms of control, population
numbers,
regions, etc.
Acreage,
Hey Xavier, it's been great spending some more time with you. Again, apologies for the last mistrial. We're going to try to get back together with John the Morgile and Orthogonal in short order, and let's think about some other guests we want to reach out to as well, try to network with them. Before I go, just one more reminder, check us out at Zetetic.news. You can subscribe on the right-hand side to the podcast through all the major platforms. You can also check out our latest episode, which will be posted in video form. And I also have been posting more and more on our Twitter, even though Jack Dorsey is a corporate slave pusillanimous. And no disrespect to vaginas when I say somebody's a pussy, because if you look it up, it's actually called pusillanimous, and it's an old hat term that got sort of modernized to pussy, but he is a pussy, and we'll probably get kicked off of here like we will Instagram and YouTube at some point once we really get hardcore, because you ain't seen nothing yet. But I put that in the sidebar, and I've been trying to network with the THETA folks, which, by the way, I'll just remind you all, we are partnered with them, and they should be making an announcement. They already did make an announcement, which is on their website, but they're going to make another one shouting out to us. So even though they're partnered with Mr. Deep State, Google, Eric Schmidt, they're also partnered with ZNN. So that's cool. And it's been real.
Absolutely.
Check us out. Any parting comments, Mr. Xavier?
Oh, just that all good things happen in time, and it's good to have organic, real growth and people who actually listen to us, even if it's not super high view counts or anything like that. And all these metrics are going to change the minute people start to realize that really good investigative content has basically left the major platforms, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or all these different platforms. I mean, increasingly, like, I look to Telegram and BitChute and Library, and I mean, I'm using those services now myself just as much in combination as YouTube, and eventually that will completely shift to where, maybe for much more trivial type material, I might go to YouTube, because that's really all it's angling to be. It's like the new E-bombs world or something eventually. And I just, with the censorship the way it is, people who depend on that YouTube income really should assess what it is that they're depending on and supporting. Because if you build a big enough audience on a decentralized platform and people start to acclimate to a better basis for viewing your content, then you're going to have a stronger community online of viewers. And I would say YouTube, Google, a lot of these big tech companies, I mean, they could be at the top of the bubble here. They may have a really serious problem in the next couple of years. The more people just get fed up with the paternalism and the condescension of their own data, and just see it as part and parcel to the evisceration of their liberties, and logging off and subscribing to different platforms. I mean, all good things happen in time. So that's what I would say is, age like fine wine with us here at Zetetic.news, and look up in a few years, and I think that you'll see some recognition of many of the points that we've championed from the very beginning, and will continue to cover as time goes on. But in the meantime, Godspeed.
Thank you.
Yeah.